Welcome to the Pioneer Roundtable. I'm Jake, joined by Luke and Aaron. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Doing good. All right. So we've got three topics today. First, starting, semi-local, we're going to talk about the quarterback situation out in the University of Tennessee. Move on to the NFL draft because that happens on Thursday, and then we'll talk about the NBA playoffs to kind of round everything off. So starting off with Nico, yesterday he announced his committal to UCLA. I don't know if the numbers of his contract have been disclosed yet, but how are you guys feeling about his transfer?
This is probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen from a five-star commit that was going to give his all for Tennessee. It's just like, it's complete betrayal. And I know not all of it is his fault. It's mostly his dad and like his agents and all that, but he did play a big part. Like when he wanted to skip practice and, other things like that. I feel like Tennessee has made a good decision by moving on with him. I think it's definitely too far into the portal time where we're not really able to pick up anyone right now. So I think we're going to roll with Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre as quarterbacks. I think they could be good, but I feel like for this season it's going to be rough for Tennessee. I don't think we're going to be as good as we were last year. But for Nico, he's going to be being paid $1.75 million, which is less than Tennessee. And then since the state of California taxes more, he's going to be being paid like half of that. So I think it's a stupid situation. Nico posted, he was like, I'm so grateful for everyone at Tennessee. And even though it came to a short end, I did everything I could. I'm like, I don't know if I really believe that.
Luke, your thoughts?
Jake, they say all the time the SEC just means more. I think that's definitely relevant on the contract. Let's take a look at the numbers, because I don't blame Nico. He was getting paid $2.4. He wanted $4 million. I don't blame him. I would want the most money for myself too. I cannot blame him for that. But what he did and the way he went about it was absolutely horrendous. Had he have maybe participated in some negotiations in good faith, he could have got paid more. I don't know if he would have got the $4 million, but he probably could have got paid more. But instead, Heupel, the way he went about it was just, you're paying me or I'm sitting out. His dad was involved in it too. And so Heupel did the best thing that he could do for that Tennessee Vols team, and he cut the head off the snake. It was a plague, and you can't let that go. You can't let that slide, or else your team's lost and stuff like that. So he let that. He basically said, Nico, you're not coming back. We're not going to want you. We don't want that sore on our team. So Nico entered the transfer portal. I think there was talks he was going to go to UNC, some other schools and stuff like that. But no one really wanted him because, once again, he was this plague. Like we saw in the NFL a couple of years ago, Antonio Brown. No one wanted to touch Antonio Brown because of his off-the-field antics. And I think that's what you're going to run into with Nico. So it's not only is it going to affect him this year with his money, because he's only going to get paid $1.75 at UCLA. After LA taxes and stuff, he's going to be making just a little over $800,000. So we went from 2.4, wanting to get $4 million, then getting paid 1.75 to only going to make about a little over $800K. Not to mention, in a year or 2 years, whenever he decides to declare for the draft, if he doesn't significantly perform great at UCLA, just his mentality and his off-the-field antics are going to plummet his draft stock. So I think he could have potentially just ruined his career.
That you said something very interesting there at the beginning. About him wanting to get more money. And you're actually the first person I've heard kind of give him props for that. So my follow-up question to that is, and, Aaron, you can chime in on this if you want to, is Nico worth $4 million a year?
No.
I agree with Aaron. I do not think he is worth $4 million a year. However, I cannot fault someone who just came off of their first full season has the quarterback of the Tennessee Volunteers, a team in the SEC, one of the most well-popular teams in the nation. I cannot blame him for wanting to get that back. I'm not going to blame someone for wanting to set their family up for life. But the way he went about it costed him in the long run. He took a gamble. That's what it all boils down to. He took a gamble thinking that he was going to get paid, and Heupel called his bluff.
No, you see my thoughts are, I think NIL is ruining college football. As a college student, you shouldn't be making $4 million a year. I think that's completely unnecessary. Like, you're a college student. I think at least they should just get their college tuition paid for and something where they can at least make a living off of. I don't think they should be making more than what some of the NFL is making today. Now, Nico is not worth that $4 million at all. I do think he has the potential to be, but as of right now, he completely underperformed last season. He did not lead that team. It was more Dylan Sampson and that defense that led that team, especially against that game against Oklahoma. If they didn't have Brew McCoy or Dante Thornton, Tennessee lost that game. Nico only had about 2 good runs and probably 2 good pass plays. We were struggling that whole entire game. And even we can say against Arkansas, like, oh, dude, he struggled. He struggled so bad. He could not pass. He could not run. And even that very last play of the game, he ran off the clock with 6 seconds running out of bounds. Like, man, it's not smart football, but you can't expect anything better, really, from that true freshman that he was. I do think he could have absolutely had the potential to have gotten better, but as of last year, he did not deserve $4 million, I believe.
I think you saw Nico's weaknesses last year. He can't play good on the road against SEC crowds, and he cannot play good in the cold. We saw the same thing with Tua in the NFL. And here's the thing. You might be able to avoid the crowds going to UCLA. You're playing in the Rose Bowl, and stadiums are not packed during UCLA regular season games. But one thing that you cannot avoid is the cold. In the playoffs, in the college football playoffs, odds are you are going to have to go to a Notre Dame. You're going to have to go to an Ohio State. You're going to have to play in these low-temperature games, and that's something he's not going to be able to avoid at any level of football.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree. And also earlier, during this little college football offseason, the Tennessee offense also lost Squirrel White to the transfer portal because of, NIL reasons. So I will have to agree with Aaron that NIL is definitely ruining the state of college football. I don't think that, these college players should be able to do contract holdouts against these universities. It's interesting and will be definitely intriguing to see how they, handle that going forward. So speaking of contracts and everything, the NFL draft kicks off on Thursday and lasts through to Saturday. And it's a pretty big consensus that the Titans are going to take Cam Ward with their number 1 overall pick. Do you guys think that there are other options they should explore with that pick? Maybe trading, maybe looking at other players, because there are some stars in this draft class. I'd say this draft class runs pretty deep. Luke, you've got Titans pants on, so I want to start with you.
Well, obviously, as you can see, this is a Middle Tennessee show, so I'm a Titans fan. I would say most of you are Titans fans, so we're talking about the Titans. I don't think they should close any doors whenever it comes to trading back in the draft. But I think if you keep that number 1 pick, Cam Ward's the pick. Listen, I'm a delusional Titans fan. I would consider myself a delusional Titans fan, but Cam Ward got on a stream on Twitch the other night, was playing some Fortnite, and he said that Traylon Burks is a top 4 receiver in the NFL. That is unbelievable, folks. Traylon Burks isn't like a top, probably 170 guy in the NFL.
He's not even top 5 on that Titans team. Even the practice squad, dude.
He shouldn't even be on the roster is what we're trying to get at right here. So I think Cam Ward already solidified himself. He's a Titan.
Aaron, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think they should explore trading that first-round pick. I definitely think they could definitely be better not taking a quarterback because that's not the issue with the team, I believe. There are so many issues with that team going on right now. I think they should definitely explore trading that first-round pick. Try to get 2 picks in the first round, dude. It's going to be dangerous if they can do that. But I don't know. I'll be honest. I see no potential for Tennessee this year. I'm ready to see them at the bottom of the AFC South and just the entire AFC this year.
I'm going to disagree with Aaron on that one. He said that he doesn't think the quarterback's the problem. And when you take a look at Super Bowls, take a look at the last 10 Super Bowls. Take a look at however many Super Bowls you want to take a look back. There's one outlier, Nick Foles. The rest, Russell Wilson's, Tom Brady's, Peyton Manning's, Patrick Mahomes', Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford. The list goes on and on and on and on. You don't win Super Bowls based on your team. You win Super Bowls based on your quarterback. And I don't think Will Levis can win you a Super Bowl. Can Cam Ward win you a Super Bowl? That's yet to be determined. But the Titans got to keep trying. They're in the spot to try to get one of these best quarterbacks coming up from college. They've got to try and get that quarterback just for the hope that he can be the next C.J. Stroud. He can be the next Jaden Daniels. They can find that flash in the bottle, because if you don't have one of those top 5 guys at quarterback, you're not going to win a Super Bowl.
That's very interesting. I don't know. I think I have to disagree with you on the Super Bowl take.
As well.
You brought up Nick Foles. I think you brought up Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson, what did he won 1 in there, and Jalen Hurts recently winning 1 as well. I don't know. I would say that I think that the system helps the quarterback a lot more. I mean, obviously, the quarterback helps a lot, but I don't think that the Titans have the best system set up. I feel like the owners are very confused on where they want to take this team. With 2 seasons ago, firing Mike Vrabel for basically no reason, truthfully. Mike Vrabel was a great coach, and I think that the locker room loved him. And the Titans have been slowly trying to rebuild, but it's like they don't really know how, with trading Kevin Byard, not this last season, but the season before, and not really making a ton of moves in free agency. So I think that the Titans kind of do have to get their system down, because a system helps a great deal. You're right, the quarterback, plays a massive role in that, but specifically for Nick Foles to be able to come in, 1 game left in the season, that being the Super Bowl, after being behind Carson Wentz for an entire year, and dominate the Patriots like they did. I think that speaks a lot to the coaching staff, more than it, does to just the quarterback, personally. I don't know if you would agree with me on that.
Yeah, I would agree with you that the Titans don't know what team they are. The Titans are definitely in an identity crisis. Since 2018 and on, the Titans have had Derrick Henry. They know that their first choice is to run the football down your throat 3 times and go a cloud of dust from there. But the Titans, this was their first season, Jake, without Derrick Henry. And yes, they had a great backfield in Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, but those are not Derrick Henry type guys. Those are not guys that you put your head down, you run north to south, and you were guaranteed 5 yards every time. They didn't have that. So they had to lean on the passing game more, and Will Levis and the receiving corps just didn't step up. So you're completely right. The Titans are in an identity crisis right now. Do they want to run the football down your throat like an old school offense? Or do they want to sort of get elevated to the modern era? And I think that's what Callahan was trying to do last year, because Callahan came from Cincinnati, one of the most pro-passing types of offense in the NFL, in NFL history, honestly. But I don't think that he's fully committed, and he's going to have to figure out which way he wants to go. So I agree with you. The Titans do need to find an identity.
Aaron, you have any thoughts on that?
Going off of that, if you look back at their 2019-2020 season, they were freaking dangerous, dude. They had A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, dude. And going back on your point where you said quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, I disagree as well, because dude, when you got A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, they're gonna absolutely outperform a mediocre quarterback like Ryan Tannehill was. He's never really been, and as a Dolphins fan, dude, he was better with Tennessee, but I think A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry absolutely carried the dude. So, and I absolutely do agree that the Titans are in an identity crisis right now, just whenever you compare those 2 teams from 2019 to 2020 to this last season, it's a completely different team. It was one of the most dangerous receiving and rushing, duos type of team in the whole league. And now that's just not even a worry anymore. That whole team is just nothing what it was. It's a completely different team nowadays than what it was at that time. And I know that was 6 years ago, but that was truly the last time they had any relevance, I believe.
But if you look at the Titans in those 3 years, you would say the pinnacle of the Titans seasons. 2019, lost in the AFC Championship to Patrick Mahomes. Ryan Tannehill could not compete. 2020, lost in the wild card round to Lamar Jackson. Ryan Tannehill could not compete. 2021, the Titans got the number 1 seed, Mike Vrabel, with the worst roster ever. He won Coach of the Year for that season. They got the number 1 seed, got a first-round bye, played the Cincinnati Bengals in the divisional round, who had the worst offensive line in the playoffs. And Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions, 3 horrible interceptions, and could not compete. So I'm still going to hold steady with this. It's the quarterbacks. When it comes down to postseason football, you've got to have a quarterback that can compete. And Ryan Tannehill couldn't compete then. Will Levis can't compete now. That's the main ideological issue with Titans, in my opinion.
All right. Moving on to the NBA playoffs. We are through the play-in tournament, so the last 2 seeds in the NBA playoffs have been decided. One of those being the number 8 seed Memphis Grizzlies. I don't know if you guys watched yesterday, but they got a pretty big beatdown laid on them. The score was 131-80, lost by 51 to the number 1 seed Thunder. So now that we're into the postseason, we'll talk about how far, do we think that the Grizzlies make it past this season with against like MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I want to know who your guys' thoughts are for the MVP and who you guys think will win the title this year. Aaron?
I got, honestly, the Thunder winning it all. That freaking team is unstoppable. And I will be honest, Shai shoots too many free throws. He's a pretty good free throw merchant. But, going on the series, that was the biggest, playoff loss, deficit-wise, in playoff history. The Grizzlies lost last night. But that's literally, they can do the same thing to them today if they wanted to. It's just, basketball is, the most random sport ever. You got to be prepared. And if Josh said that they're never going to play that bad again, I do feel like, honestly, I hope Memphis gets shut out. But I definitely think I got Thunder. The Thunder winning it all and Shai being the MVP.
Interesting. Luke?
Well, I think it's going to come down close to the Thunder and whoever challenges them, whether it's the Warriors or the Lakers. In my opinion, I think they're both the teams that are going to get to that stage and face the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. But when it comes to the Grizzlies, Jake, you're talking about Shai. Shai scored 15 against the Grizz last night. Shai scored 15 for the first time. He scored under 20 points since October. So whenever Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, is not scoring 30-plus and you still get blown out by 50, I don't think the Grizzlies are going to be able to compete. I'm with Aaron, though. Anything can happen on any given day in the NBA. So the Grizzlies might just steal a playoff game. But I don't think they're going to make this series competitive in the slightest.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough for them to win it all. I could see them probably winning 1 game, most 2.
How big a role do you think the Grizzlies firing their head coach before the playoffs starting? How big of a role do you think that's playing into this?
Huge. It was a stupid fire. Horrendous choice. They brought him to the playoffs, and he's a pretty solid coach. He's been for the last, I don't even know how long he's been there, honestly. But last season was, but this season definitely turned some things around. I feel like it was a horrid fire right before the playoffs start.
I'm with Aaron. I can sense with the owner firing the head coach. But you got to wait till after the season. I understand if you don't want just to be in that play-in every year. You want to be a top-tier team. They went from the 2 seed down to the play-in 2 months? I understand your resentment for that coach, and you can fire him, and that's a completely justified move. But you don't fire him with the last couple of weeks remaining in the regular season. You don't fire him when they are currently in the playoff race, one of the better teams in the NBA. You cannot fire him in the midseason. They set their team on fire.
So Aaron said that he thinks Shai is going to win the MVP. Luke, do you agree, or do you think somebody else might win it? I don't know. The top 3 I think they announced yesterday are Shai, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo out in Milwaukee. So who do you think out of those 3?
Well, we're going to debate who do I think and who should. Who do I think will be the MVP? I think SGA. Because of his just uncanny, this is 3 seasons now where he's averaging 30-plus points. Nikola just won it 2 years in a row. I think voter fatigue is going to play a huge factor in this playoff race, so I think SGA is going to get it. And he deserves it. But when you look at Nikola Jokic, he's averaging a triple-double, Jake, which is he's averaging 20-plus points, 10-plus assists, and 10-plus rebounds. The last time someone did that, Russell Westbrook. He won MVP his year, 2017, I believe that was. So the stats that he is performing are absolutely unbelievable because he's won it back-to-back times. It's voter fatigue, and I think you're going to give it to SGA.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that Jokic he's so dominant, but like you said, voter fatigue is very real. And I think we'll see a pretty big snub in the NBA awards this year, especially when it comes down to that one. Did you say who you thought would win the title?
I think the Celtics are going to get through on the East. I think it's going to be Celtics in the East. And between the West, I definitely think that the Thunder are going to get to the Western Conference Finals. They're going to beat whoever they face in the next matchup, whether that be the Clippers or whether that be the Nuggets. I think it'll get interesting because I think LeBron is going to come back. LeBron's going to beat the Grizzlies. Curry's going to beat the Warriors. So it's going to be LeBron and Steph Curry matching up in the semifinals. Whoever wins that's going to take on the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. And I think it's going to be a real test for the Thunder and that young core whenever they're going up against some of the most seasoned veterans in NBA history, Curry or LeBron. So I'm not ready to give my pick yet for the NBA Finals. I just don't know.
Okay. Interesting. Last thing I wanted to visit really quickly, since we are into the postseason. Obviously, the Mavericks are not in it, but the Lakers are, and the Lakers actually have jumped up to the 3 seed. So let's revisit the Luka AD trade really quickly. We talked a bit about this, a few months ago, and Luke, if I remember correctly, I think you actually had the Mavericks making the playoffs still. So now that we are where we are and are able to look back on this trade this season, how do you feel?
It's still a horrible trade, one of the worst ever. Probably, actually, I'm not going to say one of. I'm going to narrow it down. It is the worst trade ever in basketball history. But you're right. I did think the Mavericks were still going to make the playoffs, and I think they would have had Kyrie and AD stayed healthy that whole entire season. Because you saw the Mavericks could compete with Anthony Davis alone. So what happened was Anthony Davis got injured the very first night that he made his Mavericks debut. He was out for like another 2 weeks, and he came back, and he's been good. And the Mavericks were able to capitalize and pass the Suns to get that 10th spot in the play-in. But Kyrie tore his ACL, so they never saw the court together. And I think that was a huge reason of why that they didn't get anywhere. But still, that trade just keeps looking worse and worse with how good Luke is doing on the Lakers.
Aaron, when the trade happened and we talked about it, you were pretty also outspoken on how bad of a trade it was, and you were not very happy, at least looking from the Mavericks' perspective of things. So looking back on it now, how do you feel about it?
I still stand on it. I agree with everything that Luke just said. It's the worst trade I think I've ever seen in NBA history. And I think the Lakers definitely won in that, and it's showing right now. I feel like they're just so dominant right now, even though they did just lose their first game. But I will say LeBron did play pretty bad. But no, I do think it's the worst trade of all time, sports history all time. And I completely agree with Luke. I think the Mavericks could have been contenders if Kyrie was healthy with AD on that team. Because, as he said, AD was able to perform with the rest of the team, and they were still pretty dangerous. But I don't know. You can't rely on AD. He is so injury prone. Literally, his first game, he got injured with the Mavericks. You can't rely on him. He's too old. I'll forever die on that hill. That was the worst trade in sports history.
Yeah, I have to agree. I was a huge, Luka Doncic fan, and he was the reason I had liked the Mavericks. So I've honestly, it was crazy to see. And I agree with you guys. Looking back on the trade, definitely one of the worst trades, especially when you look at everything that went into it. I don't believe the GM told the coach or the owners at all before he made the phone call. So crazy to look back on, and it will be interesting to see how far Luka and LeBron are able to take the Lakers into the playoffs. So that's going to do it for this Pioneer Roundtable. I'm Jake.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Aaron.
And we'll see you next time.